Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome today to Celebrity Customer Experience Riffs with me, Jill Raff, where we riff on anything and everything employee experience to customer experience, because I guarantee you that outstanding employee experience will create outstanding customer experience. I want to start by thanking you right now for taking your time, for investing in you in the next 30 minutes in exploring what we have to talk about, which is, gosh, so many details, so many layers, so many levels. So excited about today's topic. We're going to explore um, what happens within the organization, within that employee experience. And because of what happens there, it affects the outcome in the customer experience. The two are intrinsically linked and interconnected, and can definitely cannot be separated. So I want to invite you today to maximize your experience and take notes, share, take the time right now. If you know someone who wants to talk about expectation management and how it affects your company's ability to have accountability, to hold your people accountable, how to have alignment in your business. So take a minute, share, get your notes, your pencil and pen ready, and also ready to type to comment along the way so that you can engage in the conversation with me, because I want to hear what you have to say. And if you're watching the replay, thank you. I appreciate you as well in your time. Be sure to tag me in your comments on the way back so that we can engage and can keep this conversation going, because it's talking about what's going on. It's talking about the problems, not avoiding them or acting like they're not there, that will create change and progress in our businesses. Okay, so you've heard me talk about paradigm shift that's going on in the marketplace, right? We're all acutely aware of that, and the disconnection points that are happening within an organization. So, building on last week's topic, the importance of identifying your gaps to create that connection culture for profits, I want to now talk about how we build a bridge to alignment and accountability, which is the next logical step, and take a cold, honest look at the expectations we've created or not created, and ones that have been mutually agreed upon throughout your organization. So stop for a minute and just think, have we established really clear expectations of everyone in the organization, how they fit into the work family, into the structure of your organization? And if you have, do you feel that it's mutually agreed upon? You may feel as a leader that you have made it clear, you told them what's expected of them, you told them once, it should be enough, right? Well, not necessarily. In fact, they show things have to be repeated. Sometimes, actually, the ideal time is a minimum, get this, a minimum of 7 times for people to really hear it, take it in, process, and then act upon it. And it has to be mutually agreed upon. If not, you can't really hold your people um, accountable for those things. So, as someone who grew up in a very fast growing franchise business, you may know my parents and grandparents opened McDonald's number 150 in the days where they had no idea it would be the McDonald's that it is today. But what created the McDonald's that it is today is having very clear systems, consistency and repetition of what's expected, so that the customer ultimately has that same experience over and over again, not only in their store, but anywhere they go in the world. That is the secret sauce for a franchise. But think about it, even if you're not a franchise and you're a large company that is global, well, you want your customers to have those same global experiences, regardless of where they live in the world. You want them to have the same consistent, great experiences. If you're a business that has scaled and maybe has different concepts, like in restaurants, so it may be a different brand promise, brand experience in each of your concepts, but ultimately how you run your business, the core of the business side of it, the systems, the protocols, the expectations, the values, all those things that are outlined that have to be clearly defined, written, incorporated into daily processes. Those are the things that ultimately remain the same. And if there's not clear expectations on what those are, then you're set for failure. So, what we find is that in general, there are huge gaps here as well, not only from the first gap analysis we talk about, but there are huge gaps in the expectations, the miscommunications, and uncommunicated expectations. Think about that. Think of how often you may hear even a mid manager or someone a frontline worker saying, I had no idea that's what they wanted from me. So, whose fault is that? And I'm not even say fault, really. Where did the misconnection happen? Right? Where's that disconnection? Where's that point where information was not passed on? And so it falls squarely on leadership, on management leadership. It's their responsibility. So what happens as a result of all this? Well, you guessed it. It's chaos. There's zero accountability, and honestly, you can't really hold your people accountable if you haven't established what that is. So you have a lack of emotional intelligence in your communication. You don't have appropriate or consistent communication channels along the way. And I want to just point out that how we communicate is truly just as important as what we communicate. Think about that. How we communicate is as important, sometimes more important, because of the body language, where more people actually take in information through body language. So it's just as important as what we communicate. The bottom line is you cannot hold anyone in your company accountable for what is clearly not taught and not communicated. Again, this responsibility lies squarely on the shoulders of leadership. Now, the problems that I see there is we're still thinking in pre-pandemic mindset. We have this dangerous, what I call 2019 thinking. 2019 thinking does not allow us to stay current in the mindset and the paradigm shift that I mentioned before. There's a misalignment of expectations. And from starting at the top, from the leadership, what I call LX, right? From the leadership experience to the employee experience, there's a disconnect, and often in what the leaders think they've communicated, what they think the status of the company is in terms of their health. Numbers have come back, are coming back strongly, and some say even stronger than in 2019. So imagine that. Here is the leadership thinking, oh, everything is amazing. Well, the employees are not experiencing what the leaders are feeling, and there's a disconnect there. A disconnect between the employee experience and the customer experience. The employees are delivering a certain experience to their people, a certain service to their customers. And customers have certain expectations. Of course, they're paying more than they ever did. They have higher expectations than they ever did. This has been shown through studies with what's going on during this pandemic time. So think about that. Expectations are higher. So if we don't understand what those expectations are, how do we meet them? Or how do we explain if we don't meet them, right? Maybe the expectations, I've done a previous show where we talked about maybe some of those expectations are not necessarily what they should be on the customer side. But the last piece is the customer expectations. They have expectations of your company's brand promise, right? What you give to them, what price point you have. Just recently communicated via exchange on Instagram, someone posted this a plate of food that was this ravioli with truffles and all this stuff. It looked like a hot mess, honestly. It was, I don't know what that plate was. It was not plated very well. As a past food stylist, I can tell you, when I looked at it, I thought, oh my gosh, what the heck is that? Then she described the ingredients, and I thought, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And she said, yeah, but it was really disappointing and it was not cheap. So here again, there's expectations. And if they're not met, not only is a customer disappointed, but when you slap on a high ticket on that, a price point, then they're going to feel especially the expectations and the disappointment will be even higher, because when people have to pay for something that's disappointing on top of that, it hurts all the more. And trust me, it will not result in repeat business or referrals for that matter. So it's very important that we bridge these expectation gaps for enforcement of accountability. I'm here to tell you that expectations management creates alignment and accountability. So I just want to take one moment to welcome Adele. Thanks for watching. Great points, Jill. And storytelling helps employees make the connection between the company values and how to bring them to life to their day-to-day activities. 100%. 100%. Right? Like I just even explained a small short story about an experience that someone else had. So it's that communication. It's talking to your employees in a way that they understand your expectations so that you can hold them accountable, so that you can have that mutual agreement that we talked about at the very beginning. So thinking about expectations across the company, the organization, as I just kind of outlined, I want to just bring up again this triangle of the LX, EX, and CX, the leadership experience, the employee experience, and the customer experience, and how important they are that they be equally balanced across the company to thrive. Truly, if you think about a triangle, if one side is stronger than the other, it's going to push it off and it's going to be lopsided. If one side is completely weak and doesn't work, doesn't exist, well, then they fall out and the whole triangle will collapse. That is essentially your business. Thank you, Adele. Always a pleasure to listen to you, Jill. Thank you, honey. It's always a pleasure to have your contributions. You're so wise, and I know we're in alignment. And just a side note, I would encourage anyone to go back. Adele was my guest here previously. So go back, and you can find those on YouTube. You'll be able to see them chronologically and find that episode with Adele. It's really great. She's definitely a wise soul. So continuing on with this idea of alignment, right? So starting out with the expectations of your leadership, the LX. When you do this, you will refresh your organization with current 2021 thinking and reestablish your company's high values, those core values, which need to be re-examined. Again, I really want to encourage any company that is still working from 2019 thinking, 2019 values, mission, vision, to re-explore that. That is something that I'm offering now. And it doesn't have to be with me. It could be with anyone, but it's so important that I've added it into an offer that I have to really help companies go back and look at what their values were before. And I'm not saying make a clean slate. You should never do that if that's what your brand is. But if you have not incorporated the changes that have happened as a result of the pandemic and the times where people are demanding more, they want a fuller life, a whole life. They want to be a part of something. They're not just a cog in the wheel. They don't want to be a transaction where you have to shift and, as I say, transform transactions into interactions. This is a must. So if you have not done that in your company, I encourage you, please take that step. And it doesn't have to be long. It could be, I could do it, it depends upon what the company wants, but I do it as a half-day workshop, or it could be a full-day workshop. It depends how deep you want to go, and if you've established it, what you need just to maybe a little update. But it's so crucial, and you really cannot work on creating your strategies to move forward, a growth plan, without first doing that. When you do that, you're going to walk away with a clear current 2021 and beyond brand thinking. It creates grand organizational purpose alignment. So you're all on the same page. And so now when you're bringing in new people, or when you're continuing the ongoing education for your current employees, you'll be able to have that joint, that common organizational alignment. And without that purposeful alignment, again, it's just going to be chaos. And lastly, you need to communicate your human-centered brand promise so that it's really heard, not only for your internal people, but for your customers, for your external customers. If you don't have employee expectations alignment, that's the next step, right? So you have your LX, then you have your EX. Again, communications and expectation gaps from management down to their staff is often where the problems occur. We all know it. People don't leave a company, they leave their boss. If management is not super clear on what those expectations are and communicate them in a way that they're utilizing high emotional intelligence. And that is something that we work on, that we think about with my E3 formula of educate, engage, and entrust. It's not just about training someone for that skill. It's about educating them. It's about making them stronger people as well as stronger employees for your goal. Working on your company core values, your mission, your vision, again, has not been often reinforced on a daily basis. So if it's not, how in the world are people going to have the understanding of what's expected of them if they're not living it every day? And from all of that, clearly, if no accountability has been established, well, you can forget holding anyone accountable. Accountability today is a major, major problem of things that are going on. In order to have accountability, you have to align these very clear expectations and level set really all the team members. And when you do this, you're going to reignite the passion to work together as a connected, cohesive team for one company purpose, which is ultimately what every company wants. So what do? How do we take this chaos, this disorder, this lack of clarity, and make it into alignment? The truth is today, it's a real problem because staffing is a problem. There's a shortage of staff. The retention is a very big problem. It is a serious churn, right? It's just a revolving door. The turnover is impossible. Companies are making butter with the churn of their employees more than they are making profits in their business. And that's a really sad statement. The truth is, we have to really stop and look at how are we going to manage our expectations? How do we take back the power? I think right now, so many leaders are working from fear. It's like a parent who has a spoiled child, in all fairness. That's really the case. A child who they've not wanted to reprimand, not wanted to put too many guidelines or guardrails around, children who they haven't spent the time to invest in, spend the time with them, engage with them, teach them what they need to do so that then ultimately they can trust them and they can step back and let them work independently for you, right? So that's our goal as a parent. You want to provide the education and the nurturing and time with them so that ultimately they can be strong individuals on their own. Well, that's the same thing you want for your company with your employees. But what's happening now, because it's become basically, in real estate terms, it's a buyer's market, right? With the employees as the sellers, it's become the buyer's market because there's much greater demand and very little options in terms of, well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. In terms of being a buyer's market, the employees can go and choose wherever they want to work because there's a shortage of staff, right? They have the upper hand. But what happens is, by having this upper hand, often leadership is afraid to set the boundaries, to say, no, this is not okay. This is what our brand offers, and we have to be consistent with that. Your attitude is not consistent with who we are as a company. You don't represent who we are as a company, as a culture. And so leadership and management is working from fear. And let me tell you, just like children, they pick up on parents who don't have that control. So when you're working from that place, you've now lost any sort of control, and your employees are going to do whatever the hell they want. They're going to not show up. They'll show up late. They'll ghost you. Uh, there's zero control. I had a client who was giving me an example of about things that happen with managers, even not just employees, but managers who are just doing what they want, even though they know it's not according to what the guidelines are. I asked, okay, what did you do? And she responded, what could I do? I needed her there. But you see what happens. It just gives them the power to continue to behave in that way. And so it is tricky. I am not saying this is an easy fix, but I am here to tell you that if you do not clearly establish what your expectations are and what the result is if they don't meet those expectations, and that means holding them accountable, then you are on a fast train for failure. And ultimately, if you allow that to keep going, you can close your doors, and hopefully that won't happen quickly. But it's important to think, how do we grow through this time? Not just get through it, right? Not just go through it, but really grow through it. And that means being able to work in your business, because that's needed right now. But it also means using that E3 formula to educate, engage, and entrust your people so that you're building leaders at every level, so that ultimately you can step away and trust that your people have your back because you've allowed them to show they're important. You've listened to their voice. They become an integral part of your company. They're the reason for your success. And the ultimate goal of all this truly is the alignment of expectations for accountability and consistency. And that is how you're going to grow your business. Now, it's a lot to take in, and it may seem complicated, but really, when you break it down in the systems that I have, it's pretty straightforward. It just means taking the time and investing in you and your business and in your people. And when you invest in your people, they will know it, they will feel it, they will in turn be invested in you. They will feel committed and loyal. So I think it's time to really stop in this time where things are still not fully ramped up and say, before we end up back in that pre-pandemic thinking and mindset where everything was so busy and business was so good, I would hear the opposite. We're so busy. We don't have the time to take to invest more in our people in terms of educating them and ongoing events and ongoing education. We just need to we're just taking advantage of this time, right? We're just churning and cranking. That's a mistake. Well, now everything's at a halt. And they're like, well, we're just really trying to make ends meet. We're trying to figure things out. Now is the time to slow down for a minute. Take this time to create a strategy so that you're not chasing and putting out fires when you get through this time period. And it's really important to fill those gaps and really ask yourself, truly, honestly, where are the expectation gaps within our company, our organization, and how do we fill those gaps for good? And it means starting at the top. And I think it's really important to stay current and to keep in today's thinking, eliminate the 2019 thinking. So many more things to say on this, but I just want to invite you to have a conversation with me. Share with me what's going on in your company. Obligation free, no commitment. Let's talk about, what do expectations look like in your company? Have you established what they look like at all levels, at all pieces of that triangle, in your leadership, in your employees, and what your customers want back from your employees? And are you meeting those expectations? Because ultimately, if you're not meeting the expectations of your employees, they're not going to stay around. If you're not meeting the expectations of your customers, you're not going to have a business. So it really, that triangle, it's all connected. And I would love to talk to you about your business and how to uncover and discover what's really going on in your company. So feel free to reach out. Let me put this up on the screen. My website is my name, jillraff.com, Raff, like French fry. And or reach out directly, jill@jillraff.com. Connect with me. Let's connect with me. I'm going too fast myself. And let's just have a conversation. I love hearing about what's going on with people's businesses and trying to offer some advice and give you kind of some fresh eyes on the situation. So you can set up a free call. Let's see if I have that if I have that up here. I don't. So next time, write me. I will send you the link to set up a time for free gap analysis, and we can talk about how to help your business. If it's a fit, if there's something we can do. If not, no problem. I might know of someone else who can help you with what's going on in your company right now. So I'm just here to help, and I hope that I've got you thinking and asking a few questions about what's going on in your business today. Join me next week. Super excited. Have a guest that can help you with some of that communication. Her name is Elizabeth Danziger, founder of Work Talk Communications Consulting. And it should be a very interesting conversation about some of those things I mentioned. How we communicate is just as important, if not more important, than what we communicate. So let's remember that and take that forward. Join me next week. And I'm sorry about this week. I'm so excited. I'm going tomorrow to visit my son, who's first year off in college, and it's the first parents' weekend. So, of course, I wouldn't miss that. Family is crucial. And I just want to thank you for this change of schedule this week. I hope it didn't throw you off and that you're able to at least watch the replay. And again, share it, comment, engage with me. I love that most. And next week we'll be back on schedule with our regular Thursday time frame, 12 o'clock, Thursday, the 28th. And I look forward to speaking with you and with Elizabeth. And I hope that you'll enjoy that. I know you will. So be sure to mark your calendars for that for next week. In the meantime, to great experiences. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day and week, and go out there and make those great experiences. Ask questions and fill in those expectation gaps. Cheers.